the most important one for me is the long-term stable capital appreciation. So if you go onto the land registry, I think records began in about 1960, maybe just before that. But I always tell people, and I've said this on a previous live stream, the most important statistic you need to look at for the UK market is simply the appreciation rate from when records began until now. And it's very linear. It's almost like that when you zoom out and look at the macro data. So that's a really, really important one for me. We've got a stat here, the Office for, just adjusting my screen slightly. Cool, that should be better. So yeah, the Office for National Statistics stating that between 2013 and 2023, the appreciation rate on average across the UK was 74%. Okay, so pretty significant, not quite double. We used to see double, used to be a bit of a saying that your property would double in value over 10 years. So not quite that, but that's looking at the average across the UK. So very low turnover, low performing markets are included in that. But as a nation, for a average figure of value rises, that's very, very high. So yeah, the decades and decades of capital appreciation, slow and steady, is what I would see is the number one advantage for the UK. Secondly, strong tenant demand. So the reason why rents increase so much in the UK and why, again, there's stable rises there is because of the demand for assets, especially in city centre, but to live in, to rent. So affordability is getting more difficult. People are not buying like they used to. Everyone knows family members that, got on the property ladder nice and early. That is decreasing and it's happening rarer and rarer. People are buying homes later in the UK. So there's a huge, huge demand for rental property. And as a landlord and a buy-to-let investor, obviously you're primarily purchasing the property to rent it on the open market. So having a strong tenant demand is a massive, massive advantage in the UK. And yeah, that's not going to change anytime soon, especially in the city centres. Look at the prices in London, even Manchester now, Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, they're all seeing massive, massive demand for rental property. A good one to check for that is the Office for National Statistics, where you can see the past 12 months performance of rental value rises in your particular location. Might be at city level, at borough level, you can type it in and you can see the exact data. Also, Hometrack do a great report quarterly, rental price index, so you can see current performance of where's doing well, where's seeing a lot of demand, what's happening in the rental market. They're probably the main two I'd look at. And then for the future, JLL do city level for the major cities rental price forecasts of how much they think it's going to increase by. So you can use that to make informed decisions as well. So yeah, strong tenant demand is another big advantage of the UK. Mortgage deposit levels. So in a lot of international markets, you do see higher rates for mortgages. So even if you're a international investor coming into the UK, you can often get 25-30% deposit levels. So 75-70% loan to value rates, LTV rates, which means you're keeping your deposit level relatively low for a buy-to-let purchase. If you look at Dubai, typically that might be 40-50% deposit required for a non-resident investor. Now, the ticket prices, or in other words, the purchase prices in the Dubai market increase aggressively, and we'll talk about that later. So to get a decent property there, you are looking, £200,000 plus now. So you're probably going to need half of that at least when you consider your purchase costs, etc. So you're talking quite high levels of cash sums that are needed to enter the Dubai market, which you don't need as much for the UK market. So yeah, lower deposit levels required for mortgages for both residents and non-residents is certainly an advantage that I see. Mature legal structure. So we have a really, really robust, well-regulated legal system in the UK. Obviously, solicitors are used for nearly every single purchase or conveyances. We understand where we stand as a tenant, as a landlord, as a leaseholder, as a freeholder. It's all very well documented, and a robust system is in place in terms of the legal side of things. And the UK is ranked among top countries globally for property rights. I think it's top 4. And that was from the World Economic Forum.